Good evening, guys. Welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a film study focus on Calais Campbell, the Ravens' newest signing, veteran defensive end, pushing 40 years old. I think he turns 40 in August or September. Returning to Baltimore, spent 2022 here. Unfortunately, left in 2023 to go to Atlanta. I would have liked to have seen him in Baltimore in Mike McDonald's final year. But in any case, I think we got 7 pass rush situations to talk about. I'll have a longer, I guess, full-length film study out on him maybe Friday night or Saturday morning. But I think I can get my point across here as far as what he does. So still able to generate pass rush at times. But I'll give you a couple of player comps here about what we're getting. I think the film is good, to be honest with you. I got 3 full-length games. This one is a hump move. And I'm going to give you my first player comparison. Actually, it's a boxer comparison. It's George Foreman. Big, strong, powerful athlete. Knows where to get his hands, maybe lost some of his speed or reaction time. In this case, they're dropping out an inside linebacker and then an edge defender, those two guys that are kind of disappearing or removing themselves. And then he's becoming the contain rusher from a B-gap alignment, whether you want to call it a 3 technique, a wide 3 technique, whatever. But it's the hump move, I think, that's interesting here, how he gets this done. Watch the hand movement, the circular motion with his inside arm. We're talking about here. First to go over, and then that draws or elicits the left tackle's left arm, his inside arm, to latch on. Talking about that movement clockwise or counterclockwise, excuse me, by Calais Campbell. And then the hump, once he's elicited or once he's drawn out the left tackle's inside hand. I think this is you'll call it a counter, I guess, but really I think he's running a primary move to get the left tackle to bring his arm out. So essentially you've got what is a planned secondary or counter move, and I think that just gives you an illustration of what Calais Campbell can do. He's got great timing, in my opinion. That's why I feel comfortable using the combat sports analogy with, a George Foreman, one of the greatest of all time. Because of the length, the size, the stature, first of all, the demeanor, the way that he can intimidate people with his play. In this case, if someone drops a hump move on you that dislodges you by 2 or 3 feet, the next pass set that you get is going to be radically different. Or excuse me, I should say it's going to be impacted by what just happened to you. Like I said, I'll have a little bit more of a full-length film study out on him on Friday night or Saturday morning. What I think is interesting about him is who's going to tell him, who's going to tell Calais Campbell that he should take this celebration and maybe put it away? Not me. Another one in what ends up being a one-on-one situation. He spot shadowed pre-snap here. It's going to be a swim move against the right guard. Of course, I get to pick and choose the plays to show you, right? To give you an impression, but you'll just have to trust that the impression I'm trying to convey to you is one that's genuine. It's that there's power that still remains. There's understanding of what to do, when to do it, and how to accomplish it. And he's got the film and the stats, the production to back it up. Is the speed and the reaction going to be there consistently? If he plays 50, 55 snaps a game, I don't know. He's playing a particular amount of snaps last year for Arizona. I'll go over some of that here at the end of the video. But there's the pass pro, the way that it works out. Those arrows or those blocks are not the exact path that the offensive linemen take, because, in particular, like the right tackle and the left tackle, they're taking a pass set. So, but let's check out how he gets this done against the right guard. Isolated, perfectly timed swim move. He's great with his hands on the move. So coming downhill, in this case attacking upfield to open the guard up. Once that guard's right foot gets in the ground here, that's when the juke move comes to the inside and the swim works out. Perfect timing here. Again, the combat sports analogy on my behalf is very intentional, because I think you've got a guy who he knows what to do. He knows how to do it. He utilizes the correct technique. This is a close game, in fact, here against the Colts. I had already planned a Calais Campbell film study just because, well, perhaps he might end up retiring. But as it stands now, we get to watch him in Baltimore again. And I've got just a real quick mock-up of what it looks like from a positional standpoint. It's not hierarchical necessarily for the D-end outside linebackers. It is for the D tackles and nose tackles, though. So Hendrickson, T-Rob, Mike Green, Zion Young, tremendous length in T-Rob and Zion Young, an ability to play well, stop the run. Hendrickson and Green more of the pass rush guys. We now can, assuming that Nnamdi Madubuike is healthy all season, or at least, for most of it, Madubuike, Travis Jones, Calais Campbell, John Jenkins, who I think played really well last year in 2025, and then one or maybe two of these guys survives. I'm talking about, the roster cut downs, and then actually being active on game day. Broderick Washington, Okoye, and Aeneas Peebles. I think this is a big signing here, because if you were to remove this name from this list, he would be replaced by one of these guys in the rotation. Significant upgrade in talent and significant upgrade in the level of experience and respect that he will draw, he being Calais Campbell, from his teammates and the opposing offensive line. The hump move that I started this video with and then the swim on the second play are spectacular. A lot of fun to watch and try to break down or understand. This one, however, is the one that I think is the most important. So I get to use what's called the Once Sport Analyzer or Telestrator to basically annotate on the screen for you guys, put graphics there that try to accentuate what's happening. I love this play because it's very savvy, but also we didn't do things like this in 2025. I mean, Kyle Van Noy did, because he plays the game in a similar fashion. Different size player, I know, and he plays, further out outside of the football. But the subtlety of this stunt. So it's what I would call an ET stunt. The end is going first, hence the E, and then the T or the tackle is second. So that's a Josh Sweat from the outside, illustrated by the blue path. And he's jumping inside to the B gap. And I know that you're supposed to do this, but it's the way that Calais Campbell does it and the timing with which he pushes, or basically I should say slings, Tyler Booker out of the way. Got his outside arm, his left arm, in control of Booker. And so watch the timing of Sweat's jump to the inside, followed by Calais Campbell slingshotting Booker away. What does that do? It just opens up this gap a little bit more for Josh Sweat. I think Calais Campbell is an extremely unselfish football player. Not only does he make, our team better, but I think he makes individual players better on snaps or illustrations like this, examples like this, I should say. It's an ET stunt where he's basically opening up that B gap even further. This is like a 3rd and 17. Nearly intercepted. Really, it should be intercepted. In fact, I'll let you see the rest of the play. It ends up in a big hit from Sweat on Dak. And like I said, it should have been intercepted. This is the type of thing that Calais Campbell can do well. I think it's week 9 of 2025. He can still do this, obviously, right? You're not talking about very long ago. The games that I used for this film study, and maybe, like I said, one that I'll put out Friday, against the Cowboys, against the Colts, and then against the Seattle Seahawks. Another example of kind of what I'm talking about, it's not a stunt with the defensive end. It's a pick stunt, basically picking the center. So I'll have it illustrated or drawn up for you. As an aside, this is really what the Seattle Seahawks did a ton of in 2025. 4-man rush schemes and just some chaos. Sometimes you'd get a freelance rush or a guy who was allowed to be more aggressive on one side. And then these really planned, strategic rushes from the other 3 guys that really work together well. I'm talking about in the case of Seattle. That's what we hope Jesse Minter and Anthony Weaver can get done here. It's a 17-game season coming up for a guy who will turn 40. So our expectations, they need to be tempered a little bit. I think he can play 25 to 30 snaps in a given week. And then occasionally, depending on injury, someone being unavailable, that number gets an uptick to 40 or 42 or maybe even 45. In this case, you got another example of what he can do. He's on the move, taking the guard with him, the right guard, number 71. Taking the right guard with him, I would say the best guy that I've seen in Baltimore at doing these types of things, besides Calais Campbell, was Pernell McPhee. Pernell would get away with holds. I'm talking about the outside arm for Calais Campbell right now, the left arm going up under the guard, or at least it should, and then taking him with him, picking the center. Watch the center get dislodged. He moves people, right? If you're not prepared for him, he's a violent football player even at this age. I think he fits in perfectly with Anthony Weaver, Jesse Minter. And in fact, I want to point something out. Madubuike is there's question marks about him because of the neck injury, the surgery, the touch-up surgery, whatever, it was. here recently that was announced just before the draft. Madubuike's best season in terms of finishing sacks, 2023. Mike McDonald's last year here. Utilized a lot of 4-man rush schemes, sometimes 5, and a lot of picks or stunts. I think Calais Campbell could be, well, I think he could be used with anyone to free them up. The outcome of this play, Daniel Jones played really well, right, early in 2025 before he suffered the injury. The outcome of this play isn't my concern. What I'm talking about here is the ability to team up Calais Campbell with Madubuike, Travis Jones. Maybe on rundowns, some rundowns, Madubuike and Travis Jones are off to start the possession or start the series. And you got Calais Campbell and John Jenkins and maybe Tavius Robinson and Zion Young. I think that's a great group against the run. My point is it gives Minter, Weaver a whole lot of versatility, a whole lot of options from a personnel standpoint. And then we can create stunts or blitzes because Calais Campbell can do stuff like this at any moment. I guess what I'm saying by talking about Madubuike's 2023 is that we now have a defensive coordinator, Anthony Weaver, a head coach / play caller, Jesse Minter, and then a player, Calais Campbell, who all want to pressure with 4, and Calais Campbell can help free up other guys. In this case, the example I'm talking about is Madubuike. Same game against the Colts, similar dynamic here. Again, he's lined up in the B gap, wider 3 technique. It's in the fourth quarter. Another pick stunt, all right? Pick in the center and trying to attack a particular player and then let the defensive tackle, perhaps loop around. So it takes the guard with him. I think the guard, identifies this a little sooner, stays a little flat, and Campbell's not grabbing the underneath the arm of the guard here, but what he is doing is getting this center out of his way and getting a clear path. I don't know if you guys like that zooming in nature. I really do for the end zone angle, I'll be honest with you. But I recognize that it makes the rest of the screen, disappear or difficult to look at. I've considered a couple of other options about where to put the magnification, maybe even on the bottom of the screen. You guys are, feel free to give me some feedback in the comment section about whether you like the magnification or not. But in this instance, talking about Campbell and how he gets things done, this is a pressure. He does end up touching the quarterback. The ball's out. It's another completion to Josh Downs late in the game. I just think that this signing is perfect for us in that it's a very experienced, well-respected guy with a history of production. At the end of the video, I'll talk about what he's done from 2022 to 2025, sacks, quarterback hits, and TFLs, basically what we could expect. But what I really like here is we don't have to play him 45, 50 snaps for him to have an impact. He can come in the game on 3rd and 7 and do something like, a pick or a stunt like you saw on the last 2 or 3 snaps. I actually want to add one more thought as to why I really like this signing before we get to the last 2 plays, both of which are against Dallas. In the event that Madubuike has to start the season on IR, or maybe he's on a pitch count, he being Madubuike and it can only play a certain amount of snaps, Calais Campbell is insurance. And I'm not offering you that that's the reason why, nor do I believe that's the reason why he was signed. I think there's many layers or many aspects to this signing that are extreme positive. So this is fourth quarter against Dallas. He actually had 2 sacks in this game in the fourth quarter, like the last 9 minutes. I think Arizona wins like 28-17 or maybe 27-17. What I want to emphasize here is the range that Campbell has, basically how far he has to go to get this quarterback hit. I think, to talk about McDonald and Minter and the system, I think this is a player who's attacking, and then the other 3 defensive linemen in a pass rush scheme here is predetermined. And this is something that I've talked about in a lot of Seahawks videos as well, whereby I think 3 players are being used in combination together. This defensive end on an inside rush pass, this defensive tackle kind of trying to win to the outside, and then Calais Campbell, one thing he does really well is I think react during the play. And you can see him end up kind of looping across left to right on our screen, but right to left from the defense's perspective. And obviously I'm trying to show off some of the stuff that the One Sports analyzer does by tracking his name all the way across the screen. I love the program. I love that they've given me access to the program, and they've given me actually a 10% discount code for anyone who's interested in checking it out. It's One Sports Telestrator, One Sports Analyzer. The discount code is all 22 films 10. which indicates the 10% off. I'll put it in the description if anybody wants to check it out. It's a design stunt, not a sack, and it just, I think, gives you further evidence that Calais Campbell can do things. Well, he can track the quarterback, right? Is he going to bring down Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen in a playoff situation, in a big moment? I don't know. I mean, to be honest with you, what I wonder about Minter's style, what he's going to get to, and if he's going to follow the Mike McDonald progression. As an aside, as far as bringing 4 more often than anything else. As an aside, I used the Once Sports program here. I think he traveled like 18.3 yards. I actually did double check the distance. I didn't display it on screen, but I did double check the distance by actually working out the Pythagorean theorem via hand. Last play that we've got here before I'll give you some summary thoughts about Calais Campbell returning to Baltimore. Again, no idea what the salary commitment is. We would assume that it's a 1-year deal for a very low number. I think it was Brian McFarland, maybe Wednesday or Thursday, put out information about what the Ravens had remaining from a salary cap standpoint, or available salary cap. Essentially was between $8 and $9 million. I would guess that Calais Campbell is going to be, for the veteran minimum, or a veteran-friendly deal, if you will. But in any case, this ends up being a sack. It's another loop play, in my opinion. Not necessarily that line, that yellow line here for this defensive tackle. I don't think he's really running a pick, to be honest with you. I think he's just going on an inside rush path, and then Calais is looping around. Very reminiscent of some of the things that Mike McDonald does. I've noticed it in Minter's defense with the Chargers, don't get me wrong, but just not as much as in Seattle. And what I mean is the commitment to a 4-man rush scheme and running some kind of game, either with the 2 defensive tackles or a defensive tackle and a defensive end, like I think the second play that I showed you, or some combination of all 3 guys in an organized manner. Loops around here, ends up getting the sack. The left tackle's getting absolutely run over for Dallas here. Completely by the edge defender or outside linebacker. Calais, kind of cleans this up. Only used 7 plays here. I felt like I could get my point across, to be honest with you, without using 10 or 12 plays, number 1. Number 2, wanted to get this one out a little quick as a reaction. And to be direct, already had some of the film saved up. I wanted to do a Calais Campbell video anyway. I think we're very fortunate to get this player, regardless of what the salary commitment is. I'm quite sure it's not anything outlandish. To get a guy with this experience level, ability to produce, I think is better than DJ Reader. And what I mean is, we can put Calais and Matabike out there. Calais and John Jenkins. John Jenkins and Travis Jones, or Travis Jones and Matabike as the 2 defensive tackles. One at nose, one at D tackle. To me, there's a lot of overlap between John Jenkins and Reader, and I would have been excited about that signing, to be honest with you. I thought Reader played well last year. He was miscast at times in Detroit. Essentially, Reader was on the field on a ton of 3rd and 7s when he shouldn't have been. He's not a pass rush guy, in my opinion. If he was in Baltimore in 2026, he'd be off the field on 3rd and 6. And in fact, it disappointed me. A lot of Lions fans kind of went after Reader online. It was like, first of all, you wouldn't say that in person, Second, he's a respected veteran, DJ Reader, who played with Vince Wilfork and J.J. Watt. That's how long he's been around. Calais has the same level, not the same level of respect, even more than DJ Reader. He's got 117 career sacks. I believe maybe it's 119. He's been a playmaker everywhere he's went. I want to give you some numbers, some context here about his production, but just recently, from 2022 to 2025, of course, 22 he's in Baltimore, leaves to go to Atlanta in 23. Here's his numbers, his totals: 23.5 sacks, almost 60 quarterback hits in that time, so an average of about 15 quarterback hits a year, 35 total tackles for loss. So right now, would you take a 6-sack, 15 quarterback hit, 9 TFL season from Calais Campbell, given the number of snaps that he's going to play? I would. I get it. The salary is still to be determined, or it's still out there. I think it's a great move for the Ravens. I think it's a great move for Calais Campbell. The George Foreman comparison, I meant it. Maybe it's because we just got done with the draft cycle and we were trying to do player comps for our website, draftsignal.pro, a ton. But someone who knows what to do, knows how to do it, has the experience doing so against high level, in the case of a boxer like Foreman, championship level competition, just losing speed and reaction time. I see real comparisons between these two guys in pass rush situations. As far as the run defense, I did have 5 plays saved up to show, but I wanted to cut this one a little bit shorter. To me, Campbell brings a ton of adaptability, toughness, great for Jesse Minter and Weaver to have in the room, great for Matabike, Zion Young, Mike Green as well, Tavius Robinson. I think it's a potentially elite defensive line if a couple of things happen. If Mike Green develops, right, he increases his production, his efficiency in year 2. If Zion Young shows up and plays as violent as he did in college, if Matabike and Hendrickson are healthy for 14, 15, maybe 16, 17 games, essentially most of the year, then we've got great depth for Weaver and Minter to rotate guys on the field and strategically get them to the right amount of snaps. For me, Calais Campbell, that number is 30. About 30 snaps a game in 2026. Now, to recap or review some of his snap totals or snap counts, last year, 2025, in Arizona, 524 plays on the field on defense, which was about 45%. The year before in Miami, 2024, it was over 600 snaps, and it worked out to almost 59% of the defensive plays. 2023, which looking back now, I wish he spent that in Baltimore, especially how things ended up, right? The game against the Chiefs. I wonder, what things look like pregame and what things look like early in the game when the Chiefs offense is not just moving up and down the field, but also talking shit and making sure that we know about it too. Guys like Calais Campbell, Zion Young, I'd love to see them on the field and be confrontational about that. You guys know my thoughts about what I think Baltimore should have considered before the game. But in any case, 23 in Atlanta. Calais played over 700 snaps, and that's 62% of the defensive plays. Can he do that now? 700 snaps. My guess is, that's probably not the plan. If anything, we probably need less on a weekly basis than every team he's played for recently. Arizona, Miami, and then Atlanta, going back chronologically. I think he's got great presence, experience, true professional in his approach. He's been everywhere, so he knows a lot of the NFL. He knows what works from a defensive line perspective and what doesn't against certain schemes, certain players, and even certain coaches. If you can't tell at this point, I'm a big fan of this signing. You guys let me know what your thoughts are, or I guess what your thoughts were at the time of the announcement that we had brought back Calais Campbell, and then now, after looking at presumably, my film study analysis, and then I'm sure other people have put theirs out as well. In any case, look out for another Calais Campbell film study video either Friday night or Saturday morning, which is what I really prefer, to put things out on Saturday morning for people to watch at their own leisure. In any case, you guys let me know what you think of the video in the comments section. And if you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this film study look at Calais Campbell returning to Baltimore, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.